Alright, well in this short video, we're going to go over a large, think of it as a 10,000 foot view of reports in Salesforce. So you want to log into your Salesforce organization, and we're going to click on reports. And it's good to know that if you're not really familiar with creating new reports, it's always best to find a report that looks very similar to the data that you need and making minor adjustments versus trying to create a whole new report. Because it can be a little difficult to understand what type of report you want to create. First and foremost, let me just explain this page. On the left, you'll have your folders. You're going to want to pin your folders up to the top. Sometimes you get lost. You may see more, even more folders than I show here. But if you hover over it, you'll see a pin button. You simply click pin to top, and then it'll come right up here. With all Youth for Christ organizations, we do have these reporting folders already pre-made. And if you click within them, there's a recent update. It's YFC version 1.1. You should see new reports there. So it's going to be a good baseline for you to start per job roles and per job functions. But let me open up one report here. Let's go into data processing. And we're going to go to the organizational track report. This is actually a function that looks at all the different donations and then assigns a tag to the donor records based on how many gifts they've given in a certain time frame. We can send you information on the definitions of those tracks per your request. So as you look at the report, this is a summarized report. This is actually the same report that's back on our dashboard here. That puts it into a nice little graph for us. So this data right here is the exact same as it was back in this report. So this is called a summary report. So let's say, for instance, you find a nice report that you like and you just want to make some quick changes to it. First of all, if you only want to make changes by the time frame, you don't have to actually customize the report at all. You can just change the time frame value. So there's going to be some functionality here. Any date value that's on the account record, or what type of report you created, whether it's a donation type of report, or this is an account report. So you're going to get all those account fields here. So you can filter by any sort of date. The data was created or modified, get last gift date, and then you can create ranges of dates. So I always try to start here if you're just modifying by a time. But if you want to add different columns or change the report around a little bit, that's where you're going to want to go to customize. So to explain these buttons, run report is just like refresh of the report. Hide details, it'll kind of summarize everything. Show details, and I'll pop it out again. That's just any summary report. You can save it, save as, printable view, export details. That's where a lot of you are going to use this to export it to like an Excel or CSV program to do mail merging features. So let's go into this report and customize it. So when you hit the customize button, you're actually going to come into the same window as you were creating a new report. Where I always tell people to start on this filter section to make sure that you're going to see the data. It's a lot easier to run a report when you can actually see some live data, and then you'll relate to that data and make sure it's what you're looking for. So start by filters and come down to show actually. So you're going to show all accounts or my accounts. The difference between all accounts or my accounts are the assignment of those accounts. So if I pulled up an account here, foster household. These are all the fields that are relevant to that account, and then whether it's a my or an all is who that account owner is. And then next you're going to want to sort it by some sort of date field. If you just want to see all information, best just do a created date and all time. But that's where you can really drill it down, and that's a little easier parameters. As well as you should know that in reports, instead of just picking like one date to another date, like this function, if you can use a range function, it'll update every day that it moves forward. So if you said the current calendar year, last week, this week, yesterday, today, last 30 days, every time you run that report, it's going to move those dates up, so it'll show the last 30 days from today. Obviously today's the 20th, so it showed that example really well there. But we just want to look at all time. So after you start in this section here, Now you're going to want to come down and add your filters. So maybe I only want to see people that have actually given a gift. I want to filter it down a little bit more. I want to take everyone that hasn't given any gifts. So I want to find like I said, this is an account report. So we want to find something on that account page that's going to tell me whether or not they gave a gift or not. And the best high sign for that would be total gifts. Total gifts are like lifetime gifts history. So I'll go add, and then you're going to find your filter logic. Remember, if you went through our last video about list views, this is going to make some sense. Nice part in here, you can click on the down arrow and see a lot of fields, but if you know exactly that field you're looking for, you can just type it in. Let's do total gifts. So I want total gifts not equal to 0. I'll hit OK. Then I see that some of the people that haven't given any donations just got right out of that report. So the same thing on list views. You can add numerous filter criteria. So maybe I want the account name to contain an H. It's really some neat functions in these formula editing. So there we go, foster H, household, has an H in it. As well as you can do filter logic. So maybe I want 1 and 2, or 1 or 2. So if I do that, I should have a little bit more data. There we go. So obviously these all household count names have H's in them, and or they've given more gifts. So Fostering Foundation obviously doesn't have an H in it, so that is showing up because they gave gifts. Hopefully this makes some sense. If you can understand filter logic, it's really fun just to play around with it. You know, remove it, remove the logic because remove that, and see how your data will populate. So after you have this figured out, really your filter criteria, you want to pull in the columns that you want. So maybe I want to know what type of account it is. I can simply pull this over. Oh. Account record type, household account. You can double click and pull it over, or you can do this nice just easy drag and drop function. And there's going to be a same with the sorting here. You can do a quick find for all your fields. So if you know there's a field type that you want to find, maybe formal greeting, you can type it in there, find that quick, pull it right over. Maybe informal greeting, pull that over. Maybe you want address. It's good to note that organization and household accounts do use a billing address. So billing, city, state, zip code. Now we got all their addresses there. I think some of these don't have any addresses, just as an example. So really that easy. You're just simply pulling over the fields you want, figuring out what you want to filter it by, and then you have your report. So, and if you're modifying an existing report that's already there, I'd ask that you do save as. So if you do save as, it's kind of like saving as an Excel document or a Word document. You know, it's going to keep the original, but then you're going to create a new donor track report. And then you can assign it to whatever folder you'd like. There's one thing good to know, there's a personal folder so that no one else can see these reports. If you'd like to save it in there, I'm just going to throw it in this file, and I can hit save and run report, and we're going to get that same data that we were just working on. Last thing I want to show you, I want to go back into customize. We can also add graphs. And if you understand how to add graphs in a report, the next video that we're going to do about dashboards is really going to make a lot of sense as well. So in order to add a chart or a graph, you have to summarize some sort of data. If you think about it, a graph is a compiling of data. Well, your data's got to be compiled in some way, otherwise it's going to be really hard to see that. One thing I should show you is how to compile that data. So let me change this to just a tabular formatted report. So as you see, this is when you're creating a new report, this is really what it's going to look like. There's going to be no summary of data, but we want to summarize it by that organization track again. So let me add back this organization track. Like I said, really easy drag and drop function, but I want to summarize it by this organization track with legacy. So whatever you want to summarize it by, you simply hover over and then group by this field. That's simple. So group those the data in those different segments. Let's say we also want to summarize maybe a dollar amount. So that's another way you can see your data. So right under group by this field, you can always do summarize by this field. So you can sum, you can average, you can max, you can min, you can actually do all of them at the same time. You can apply, and you'll get all of them. So most of the time people want to see just the summary of them. That's what I use the most. So we get a nice summary of those fields. Hopefully that makes sense. So now that we got our report summarized and some of the dollar amount summarized as well, we're going to add a chart. So simply click, sorry I did that kind of quick, add chart button. Then you want to figure out what type of chart you want to put into this report. I like pie charts. I think they're nice and easy. So we're going to try to group by some data. We don't have many contributor core. And don't be too worried if this doesn't look exactly right. This is just a preview. It may not include all your data. So you want to do some formatting. Add a nice little title. You can move the key underneath this blue guy. You can show values, show wedges. I usually recommend that you do put these three on there, values, wedges, and hover. So then you can actually see the data that's in there. Hopefully this makes sense. You can play around. It's really fun to create different types of charts. Usually if it's not working, it's because your data isn't summarized the right way. So once again, we'll have a nice graph here. This won't always be a representation of all your data, as you can see. This isn't. However, you should note that in the preview screen here, preview shows a limited number of records. You won't be able to see all the results here. So to see all your results, go ahead and always hit save, and then let's run the report. So we are summarized by organization track and contributor core, introduction. Hopefully that makes some sense, that graph. Actually, this graph isn't working exactly the way it should. I just didn't have a setting in there. But you get the general idea, general principle of how to make a report. I'm going to remove that, and I'll edit the chart. Oh, that's why. I just had the value set to the wrong parameter. I'll rerun the report. And hopefully this makes sense. Making a graph, editing a current report. And then last but not least, I know this video is getting a little bit long, but we want to show you how to create a new report. So how to create a new report, you want to start with the end in mind. So as you're looking at your data, as you're looking over accounts, or you're looking at certain individuals, maybe you're looking at a certain donation, you want to look at the data that's on this page. So if the data that's on this page is represented in the report that you want to pull with that end in mind, you're going to want to start with that. So for an example, maybe you want to run everyone that does monthly support amount of a certain dollar. So we've got this field here, monthly support amount, and that's on the individual object. So let's go back to reports. We're going to click new report. Remember, starting with that end in mind, because we know we want to run on monthly donors that are individuals. So we're going to go to, and just so you know, accounts and individuals are actually in the same place. You just have to do a subsection here and I'll show you. But donations, you're going to use these 99% of the time. And once again, 99% of the time, you're going to use the first one. If you start drilling down to donations with something else, it also excludes anything that does not have that with item. So let's go to accounts. So we want individuals and accounts. So if you want an individual report, that's where you're going to pull it from. So remember the end in mind, we're thinking about the monthly donor support amount. So remember, we're going to start here, top filters. So I'm going to do all accounts. I want the created field just to be all time. I'm going to leave that wide open. And then I want to add that filter for monthly support amount. And I want is not equal to 0. So we got some different data here. Actually is not equal to, which would be blank. So Hopefully that makes some sense. So we drilled down our data a little bit, and oh wow, we just have 2 records. So I probably want to pull in that monthly support amount into our report. And you can quickly remove columns by doing that little down arrow function. So as you can see there, monthly support amount. So it looks like Malia's actually has a $0 amount in her field, so it's not just blank, but it's also 0. So to filter that out, we just want to do greater or equal to $1. So there we go, we got hers out now. Hopefully this makes sense. How you filter this, how you create a report, starting with the end in mind. I want to go ahead and save it. Monthly support. I'll just throw it in my personal custom reports, save and run the report, and there we go. From start to finish, we created a report in less than about 3 minutes. Like I said, 99% of the time you're going to use some of the same reports over and over again, do small tweaks. So hopefully this really helps and you have a good understanding of reports, how to modify report folders, and yeah, feel free to play around, poke around. You can't break much of anything in reports, so feel free to try to create reports. I would recommend as a good best practice is to try to keep your folders that you use clean here. So if there's, you can create a new folder if you like to, but really try to keep these folders clean for what you use. Also good to know the reports that show up here are the reports that you access last. So your most frequent reports will actually just naturally gravitate to this section. Hopefully this helps. Have a good rest of your day.